Salutations, my friends, and thank you for tuning in to another minicast. I've titled this one Awakening the Occult because we're going to be looking at just that. Recently, news has come out this week about the Arch of Baal, the Arch of Triumph, which we've touched over briefly last year, finally being erected here in America. Now, the previous minicast that we did, we actually touched on how Beyonce, news came out about Beyonce's drummer for several years, exposed how she has been indeed involved in the occult. Now, why are we talking about the occult? Why are we talking about the Arch of Baal? Why are we talking about these things that are going on? People only want to care about the Kavanaugh hearings. All they really think about is sexual allegations, sexual perversion, sexual misconduct, sexual. Everything is so sexy. Well, a lot of energy actually derives from your sexual power. I know that kind of sounds strange, and it's definitely something that we don't touch on over here on the show, but these occultists, these mysticists, these people who are involved with this type of stuff, they understand powers and ways that you can't believe. And with that being said, let's start the show. So as I said before, this episode is titled Awakening the Occult. What does the occult mean? It just means hidden. It just means secret, so to speak. Why do we focus on the occult so heavily on this show? Is because it also plays in part to what's coming with the New World Order. We talk about religion, we talk about spirituality, we talk about politics, we talk about the supernatural, we talk about the paranormal, we talk about the preternatural, we talk about all of it. So why is the occult something that I feel like we need to watch? Well, I feel like what's happening right now, what's happening right now is a resurgence, right? People are seeking powers and seeking strengths in places that they didn't think were ever possible before. The occultism is expanding, and it's on the rise because previous generations failed to teach us some of these spiritual teachings. They failed to teach us the spiritual guidance that we needed, that most people look to the church for. That's the whole reason as to why the church was there, right? It was put there to guide people spiritually, and now that we see that collapsing, what's coming in the wake? What's coming after it? Satanism, Luciferianism, atheism. You know, just the other day I was reading how Christian Chinese children have to renounce religion. The state comes into the school and says, hey, look, you better tell us all that you don't believe in anything. The power of faith, the power of belief, it's very, very important, and I don't think a lot of people really get it. It really does empower you. But to get back to point, why are we here today? News came out this week, as I said. News came out before. News came out about how we erected the Arch of Triumph, the Arch of Baal. This is important because we're seeing the resurgence of ancient Babylonian religions, Babylon's mystery religion. This is an article that came up from End Times Headlines. We put this up October, or they put this up October 2nd. It says, did America just erect a gateway to demonic darkness? It's from Charisma News. It says the Arch of Baal was erected in our nation's capital at the end of September. It is a significant indicator in the natural of what is taking place in the spiritual realm. For years, my husband and I lived in China and a land populated with arches. Even then, we recognized their spiritual significance. They are gateways. As I was in prayer this morning, the Lord spoke to my heart, quote, it's time to close the gateways of deception. It is time to close the gateways of demonic activity in our lands and in our lives. Gateways are entry points, and we may have walked through them unwillingly, but yet in doing so, we have opened the door to demonic control and our activity in our lives. What does this arch reveal? Is it important to remember that the spirit of darkness works in the darkness? When we see them reveal themselves and come out into the light, it is a sure sign not only of the intensity of the battle, but that the victory is near. They will never step into the light unless they are losing their grip and have no other choice. That is what we see happening in America at this time. And I would have to agree. You see, why was this erected right whenever we're hearing about the Kavanaugh hearings? We're hearing about, as I said before, sexual perversions, sexual molestation. Now, whether or not you believe Christine Blasey Ford or even Brett Kavanaugh or any of the other accusers that come out, that's for another show. We'll see what happens as that unfolds. I said earlier today in our Instagram story that I'm actually I don't believe Christine Blasey Ford, and I don't support Brett Kavanaugh. But what I do support is victims coming together, supporting other victims. Now back to this. What are we talking about? This is the Charisma News article, right? America just erected a gateway to darkness. Charisma News by Karen Hardin, right? What we have to realize is that there are realms in which we operate, and there are realms that we can't even see operating around us. When they erect these statues, right, when they put these things up, they're basically telling you, it is now our time. This is our spot. And, it's like whenever people graffiti areas, and they're like, hey, this is my tag, this is my area, ba-ba-da-ba-da. That's how it works. But what you've got to understand is that these people who are practicing these ancient Babylonian religions, they communicate in ways and realms and with words and a language that we don't even understand. It's called the twilight language. This is an old ancient language, and they use it all the time. So whenever you have these people whenever we have Satanists joining the Satanic Temple at an alarming rate, when you have Satanists trying to have after-school Satan with your child, when you have Satanists trying to erect Baphomet statues, they're communicating. They're activating their sleeper cells. They're activating their agents. In 2018, we're drawing a close to 2018, but in 2017 and towards the end of 2016, we saw a surge with the Satanists, with the energy, with the work that they were putting out, the memberships that they were trying to have, right? And what do you think happened with that? They just went away? Those people just kind of disappeared, never to be heard from again? Think about that. This isn't something new, unfortunately. So again, let's get back to why this arch is being built. Why it's being built in the cover of darkness right around this time, whenever we're hearing about sexual allegations, sexual misconduct, and sexual perversions. They're harnessing sexual energy, and Washington is filled with it. Continuing on in this article, it says, this spiritual battle for our nation has manifested in the natural realm. A replica of the Arch of Baal was erected in Washington, D.C., ironically just the day before the hearings began regarding the accusations against Supreme Court nominee Brett Kavanaugh. According to news reports, the Arch of Palmyra was unveiled on the National Mall in Washington, D.C. on September 26th and was to remain until September 29th. It is a symbol of demonic control, desperately battling to remain in control. This was not the first appearance of the arch. In September 2016, a replica of the Syrian arch, which had been destroyed by ISIS in August of 2015, was unveiled in New York City. This is not simply a piece of history for us to study and admire. It is a deeper spiritual root on display. Baal, which means owner or lord, historically was said to represent the sun and became a universal symbol for the god of fertility. As the fight to delay the vote for and keep Brett Kavanaugh or any other conservative from being seated on the Supreme Court, it should come as no surprise that we are actually seeing is the ancient spiritual entities behind the battle reveal themselves. The intense battle waged before us to prevent another conservative from being added to the Supreme Court and effectively shifting the majority from liberal to conservative is what is at stake. More politics stuff, but at the root of this battle is the Arch of Baal, the universal god of fertility, is erected, is the sacrifice of babies through abortion, which is now threatened. Now I'm going to put a pause right there, okay? We're talking about a lot. The god of fertility. We're talking about abortion. We're talking about demonic activity. We're talking about a lot of stuff. They're trying to incorporate. They're trying to educate you about the historical importance of Baal and why they come from the Canaanites and what that whole thing is. Before I get back into this article, let me kind of put it into play for you, right? When we hear about these rituals, when we hear about these events, the rituals that take place at Bohemian Grove, things that go on in Planned Parenthood, the cremation of care ritual, where they release themselves of any care, any responsibility, or any rule. You're passing your child into the fire. You know, their god, Molech, the biblical name of the god, of the Canaanite god, associated with child sacrifice, right? Back in the old day, they had like a little, they had some kind of mechanism where people would put newborn babies in basically what could only be considered a furnace, and then a lever would drop, the child would burn, and the family would go on about their lives. And I know that sounds kind of barbaric, but again, what is abortion and what is Planned Parenthood? When I call Planned Parenthood an abortuary, you've got to think about these people who were there, who is willingly trying to harvest this. It's crazy. It is really demonic. You see, it really is. It's dark. It's dark side energy. It is a black magic ritual to rid yourself of your conscience, to where you're actually transferring, imbuing your conscience into the child, burning the child, and saying, you know what, I have no more attachment to anything else. There was my responsibility. There was my conscience. Went right out the window. It's a high-level occult ritual, okay? Same thing happens whenever these people who are in Skull and Bones and all these other secret societies, when they get into these mock rituals, so to speak, as they say. They have effigies, right? Effigies of a baby, yet they still stab the baby. They have fake coffins. They don't fill it with spiders, but they fill it with some kind of liquid. What is the point of this, okay? Revelations have come out in relation to this wicked shit going on, forgive my language, in relation to spirit cooking, where they're mixing feces, urine, semen, blood, and all of this other stuff, and painting the walls and painting themselves with it. Now, if you were in some kind of secret society to where you wanted to breed trust, you wanted to create an air of honesty amongst you and all your other people, what would you do? Well, you would debase them. You would humiliate them. You would make them subservient to you or to the cause, right? That's why everybody does it to everybody else. Everybody incorporates one another, so that way they're all incriminated. You see, what is going on in the background of things is very crazy. So whenever we're talking about them erecting the statue right now, it's actually important. Think about this, okay? As the article said, and we'll get back into this. Think about this. If they kill children, they end the lineage. This is why pedophilia is so important, why we need to look at it. This is why drag queen story time is important. This is why TEDx normalizing pedophilia is important. This is why all this stuff is important. It's because H.G. Wells, the author of the New World Order and the Open Conspiracy, talked about how that's the real agenda, is to go after the kids. They don't care about us, okay? We've already done our damage, so to speak. It's the kids. It's why they want to sexualize them early. It's why they want to rob them of their virtue early. You see. So with all this talk, again, you have to think about it. 1 week we're talking about drag queen story time. 1 week we're talking about transgender identities, you know, gender fluidity, whether or not somebody's a man or whether or not somebody's a female. Then you have people who were supposed to be respectful members of the community being exposed as sexual deviants. Children are watching all of this stuff. They're watching all these accusations being thrown around. They're watching all these people react crazy. And people don't really understand what that means. You see. But to get back to point, the agenda is winning over the children. And what we're discussing right now is sexual perversions and how there are places and temples, arches, sigils, and symbols, all kinds of things all over Washington, which are used to harness that ritualized ambient sex magic. Now, continuing on here in this article, it says the importance of gateways. Arches represent gateways. The original Arch of Baal was built at the entrance of the Temple of Baal in Syria approximately 2,000 years ago. It was a gateway to the demonic and Baal worship. If you visit China, you will see at the entrance of many cities or historical locations arches that have been erected as entry points. Today, they are applauded for their intricate design and preservation of their historical culture. But as with much of China's architecture, which was constructed for protection against or to spiritual entities, these arches represent memorials and gateways established to ruling authorities in those regions. There are also spiritual gateways which we may have erected even unknowingly in our lives that open the door to other spiritual activity unless they are torn down. Now, how are we supposed to tear these things down? You have thousands of people going to protests against Brett Kavanaugh for some of these accusations that don't seem real. How do you tear these things down? Healing. Rape is a very, very serious thing. It is very, very serious. I have friends that are children of rape. And life is a very, very real thing. You see, everything that we're talking about, though, is in preparation for the New World Order. Not only governmental, but also spiritual and religious. You see. I want to play a quick clip for you guys. 2 clips, if I could, actually, signifying the times that we are in. Okay? Really, I think you guys need to get this. If Stranger Things is the entertainment industry's way of explaining us Project Montauk, CERN, the LHC, MK Ultra, MK Naomi, and all these other secret programs, if Stranger Things is the public disclosure for us understanding the Upside Down, Project Stargate, our mental powers, psychokinesis, what would be the point of basically rebooting Sabrina the Teenage Witch? And this isn't your happy-go-lucky 90s casual witch. She's over here going to some other realm and possibly even communicating with Baphomet. So we're going to play this clip for you guys. And for our audio listeners, you guys can go look this up on YouTube. Just type in The Chilling Adventures of Sabrina, and you'll see.
They're coming to get you, Barbara.
Barney Kinkle, the only person you're gonna scare is yourself.
Got you.
Good night, Harvey.
Good night, Sabrina.
In the town of Greendale, where it always feels like Halloween, there lived a girl who was half witch, half mortal, who, on her 16th birthday, would have to choose between 2 worlds, the witch world of her family and the human world of her friends.
Happy birthday, sweet 16.
And that girl is me.
Are you willing to forsake the path of light and follow the path of night?
It's very tough. It's very tough.
I can't do this.
You must.
There it is. There's the blood magic.
I shall deliver Sabrina.
You're going to die, half-breed.
Girls, let's not be catty bitches, hmm?
It's just that you've grown up before my very eyes.
You're a rebel, Spoon. That's how I like my witches.
Right. You turned into the prettiest
I'm not an evil person,
thing.
but these are desperate times.
Happy birthday, sweet 16.
All kinds of symbolism.
My name is Sabrina Spellman, and I will not sign it away.
Would you like to do the honors?
With pleasure.
Rise.
There's the pentagram.
Rise.
Happy birthday, sweet 16.
Okay.
Was on Hilda.
She annoyed me, so I killed her.
All right, so there you go. Whole lot of different things to look at with just that clip alone. I'll be playing for you guys another one here shortly. But basically what I want to talk about in that is, again, how we're seeing the occult normalized. We're seeing witchcraft normalized. We're seeing this stuff that that normally was kind of hidden, put in the restraints. We're seeing that now slowly start to come out. It's as if, hey, yeah, I know I'm a witch. Yeah, I know I'm a warlock. Hey, why don't we all hang out together? Hey, that's a great idea. And that's exactly what this whole witches that bind Trump thing is. Thousands of witches casting spells on Trump every month to protect the world. Now, I use this every time we talk about the occult because it just shows you the time frame that we are in. They are trying to mask it with politics, saying, oh, we need to stop Brett Kavanaugh. Oh, we need to stop Trump. Oh, we need to stop these Republicans and get stopped, okay? That's only certain sects of people who are using spiritual practices for political gains. I'm talking about the people who are out there sacrificing children, I'm talking about the people who are out there conducting these real rituals. You see, to get back to point, to bridge where we're at right now, right here. Beyonce's former drummer claims singer molested her with dark magic and extreme witchcraft. Now, in this, she talks about being molested with dark magic. Being molested with dark magic. Being molested with dark magic. What have we been talking about? High-ranking officials being involved in rituals, mysticism, occultism, things like the Skull and Bones, secret societies, and entertainers. Molested with witchcraft. You see, what is going on right now is the rise in occult activity. Alice Bailey has talked about it in her book, The Externalization of the Hierarchy. As I said before, these people, they communicate using the twilight language. If you good folks really listen to the work of Russ Dizdar, who does a phenomenal job really archiving and detailing all of this crazy stuff that's going on, he talks about this. Since the 80s, they have been dealing with this. Actually, since the 50s, the 40s, really, and how when you track down some of these people, some of these split multiples, these people who have been given over to it, how they know all kinds of different languages. They know Latin, they know French, they know German, they know all kinds of different stuff. And the whole point behind this, behind having all these multiple personalities, is so that if they are ever caught, they can never be traced back to the original programmer. And I say that because, again, we're talking about how symbols, sigils, magic, language, words, how that is the actual, that's real reality. You see, a perfect example, in Indian culture, what we think of as the swastika is actually a sign of peace. But if you twist that just a little, because of the symbol, right? Because of how it's ingrained into us, because of how we perceive these things, we see it as evil. We see it as wicked. But again, you've got to study the patterns of the occultists, of the mysticists, of the Luciferians, and of the Satanists. What they do is they invert symbols. They co-opt it for their true purpose. They co-opt the true purpose. You see. And I know I probably sound like I'm going back crap crazy with you guys. A lot of people are wondering, why is this even important right now? Because people are losing their mind, and they don't care that they're losing their mind. They're actually, they want to lose their mind. That's the even crazier part. They're okay with losing their mind because they know, that what comes after doesn't really matter. That's why you got this kid Boo, this rapper, this fool over here, literally giving away his birthright, giving away his lineage, receiving the RFID chip.
Once he injects it, you can't keep the muscle flat.
And for our audio listeners, I'm playing a video where Kid Boo's receiving the RFID chip in his hand.
In there. Whew. That wasn't so bad. It was a slight pinch. Yeah, put your finger in there. We're done. Kid Boo just got a secret investor. He requested I be microchipped.
I'm sure.
And he requested I give you guys a quick message.
Oh, word?
Paradism. For those of you who don't know, be aware. We all need to fight the good fight to free mankind and give job to robotics. A world without money, a world without government.
Yeah, I'm alright. I'll take my chances. But again, you've got to think about the time frame that we are in. These are the people that are just selling this kind of false freedom to your children, to people, to society, saying, you know what, maybe if I get chipped, I'll be free. That is the most ass-backwards thing I could ever think of. Check this out. An article from Mysterious Universe by Brett Tingley. We put this up September 27th. It says, an anti-aging clinic in New York serves up blood of the young. Okay, so before I get into this, I think it's important to make this kind of connection. Wasn't the Arch of Baal also erected in New York? Isn't that what that article said? And now you have this this clinic, right, offering to do blood transfusions. At what point in time did it become okay for us to think that this was all right? At what point in time did we say, you know what, for me to live, we're basically talking about vampires, a politically correct way of saying vampires. What is a monster? It's just a human that doesn't care, right? You see what I'm saying? What is going on is we're releasing all those restraints that were on us, that we put on ourselves so that we could become a more disciplined and firm version of us. We're releasing that. We're letting it go. Okay, we're letting ourselves go. We're saying, you know what? I don't need a God. I just need myself. I don't need to believe in anything. Shucks, it doesn't matter. You see, and while this is happening, this kind of mass removal from religion, these occultists are organizing. Oh, are they organizing? They're coming together. They're building. They know what's going on. They know what's happening. They see what's going on. And their response is to take more people. Take more people. Take more people. Let me get back into this article right here. It says, and this is the article from Charisma News that we're still talking about the Arch of Baal. It says, as believers, while we can easily recognize the spiritual significance behind the Arch of Baal erected recently in D.C., we often overlook gateways erected in our own lives that open doors to the demonic spiritual activity. One of the most common operating in our world today is deceptions. And this is from the book of Matthew, chapter 24, verse 24. It says, quote, for false Christs and false prophets will arise and show great signs and wonders to deceive, if possible, even the elect. We are all susceptible to deception, which also has a gateway. It is pride. Pride is the arch or entryway into the temple of deception, so to speak, just as the Arch of Palmyra was entrance into the Temple of Baal. In one news accounts regarding the Arch of Baal in New York, it was stated, quote, the arch is not roped off, allowing visitors to walk around it and touch it. Why is this significant? Because it represents the freeing reign to walk under its influence and to have its spiritual influence freely touch our lives. So it is when we open the door to pride. Once we walk away under the archway of pride, we enter or open the door for its destructive influence, the spirit of deception. And it doesn't stop there. There's also spiritual progression which will follow as deception always operates without offense, which also invites anger and rage, and ultimately results in the spirit of insanity once the progression reaches full scale. That is the battle manifesting now in America and around the world. I'll put a pause on that again, because again, pride, deception, anger, literally being caught up to where you don't know why you're angry. You're just angry. You don't have righteous rage or righteous indignation. You're just angry. You haven't allowed for yourself to actually discern what it is that you're angry about. You're just wanting to feel. This is why I say keep your flesh in check. Keep your mind clear. Because these people, they operate in deception. This is a perfect way to explain this is we don't really know if what Christine Blasey Ford is saying is on point. And there are countless other people who are coming out and having accusations. We don't know. But because this person has now kind of muddied the waters practicing deception, everything else that comes after that is now subject to the same kind of scrutiny that we don't know. So we have to grill it. We have to have a discernment. So people are walking around angry. And another perfect example of this is the masses of people who don't really get what's going on, how they are purposely being driven towards this polarization agenda in politics. Trump is the triggering president. And that's one of the things, that's the lesson that America has to learn. We gotta stop this, man. We can't keep getting upset and then expecting things to bend to our will. When you're making decisions in an emotional, irrational state, you're just that, emotional and irrational. You're not thinking. You're not being critical. You're not analyzing things. You're just reacting. And you're deceiving yourself. Let me get back into this article so we can try to start to wrap things up. It says, over-the-top rage is an indicator. It points out the host of the demonic activity brewing underneath. We see it daily in the media and against the president as they make accusations and take actions against him or anyone who represents him, which threatens the demonic stronghold in our land. It is a lying spirit that calls itself love, but it's hate. As open but is trying to shut down. As freedom, yet it imprisons. In false humility, it states it is the victim, and yet keeps victims in bondage and controlled by the past. False humility is simply pride. Oh man, whoever wrote this article, they are on point. They are on point. Charisma News is on point. I want to put a pause right there, because again, we're talking about what they say right here, self-deception. There are kids still in cages. There are still families separated. There are still mysteries that we don't know. Like Flint still doesn't have clean water. Florence, South Carolina is still flooded. We still don't know the death toll of Puerto Rico. There's still stuff going on in the world, but you won't hear people actually care because it's not in the news. They're not keeping up with things. They're getting triggered by what they see on their phone. They see it, and they're told, this is how you should feel today, and that's how they feel. If that's not Borg-esque, I don't know what is. So then what is driving this spirit? That spirit of lying, of self-deception, what is that? You see, and why is it so pervasive in our country right now? Delusion. A lot of people are spiritually deluded. Let me continue on with this so we can start to close out. It says, it opens the door to self-deception. Quote, you have greater insight, compassion, love, or wisdom than they do. We hear it as people declare, we will go low, when in fact that is simply an indicator of the pride that sets itself up high. The only way to go low is when we bow our knees in prayer and cry out for deliverance and healing in our land. This battle is far from over. To remain effective, we have to keep ourselves away, or we have to keep ourselves free from the entanglements of the world that would try to deceive us and hold us in bondage and make us ineffective. Remember, the spiritual upheaval revealed is because of the spirits of darkness are being forced into the light through the prayers of the saints as they begin to lose their grip. Prayer and the word are the weapons of warfare. So how can we make sure that we have not erected a gateway in our lives or families? The nature of deception is that the one deceived doesn't recognize it. So how can we free ourselves from something we don't recognize might exist? By praying this simple prayer. Quote, Lord, I ask that the foot of pride would not come upon me or my family, members, or of our nation. If there is any area of pride in my life, I ask that you would reveal it, and I repent of it. If there is any area of deception that has entered through pride or for any other reason, I ask that you reveal it and remove it from my life. I also pray on behalf of our nation that the spirit of pride bow its knees and that it's in its place. We ask for a spirit of humility to fill our land so we can see and know the truth. We command the spirit of deception to let go. Lord, help us see what you see. Help us to see what we are missing and see from your vantage point today and walk in the truth. We ask for your glory to be revealed and for our land to go through a revival and heal. That's all we're asking for, is healing. I remember talking about this years ago. You ask somebody to pray for you, they'll slap you in the face these days, and that's just a testament of the time frame that we're in. People are so quick to get into their emotions, not into their heart, to get into their emotions. Not in their mind, to get into their emotions and freak out. How does this tie into awakening the occult? You've got to understand, and I remember talking about this, one of the things that the Satanic Temple has done in response to all of this paradigm shifting work that's taking place, they've decided to expand their parameters. So when I talk about the church not being there for the broken, not being there for the sexual abuse victims, not being there for the kids that got out of cages, the Luciferians and the Satanists are. And that's why they're winning. We have to let go of a lot of these things that we have been forced into, but at the same time realize that we have the answers. And that's what's being forced onto us is simply that, an agenda that these occultists believe. And whether or not you believe it, it doesn't matter. It's what they believe. The occultists are doing their work. They believe in their work. That's why it's called the Satanic Underground. That's why there's spectrums of the Satanism. That's why they communicate with the devil horns, with hand signs, with symbols. That's why you always see certain musicians that have the pentagram in their music videos. What needs to happen here for a lot of people is you need to see offensive, peaceful people who are out there, not even offensive, defensive, peaceful people that are out there trying to win back some kind of righteousness in the land. What am I trying to say? You don't ever see any family marches going on. You don't ever see any pro-family, hey, you know, I'm happy I got my wife here, I'm happy I got my kid here, I'm happy I got my dogs, man, I'm super stoked. You don't see any of that, no. What you see is you're a bigot and a racist and a homophobe because you don't appreciate these people. That's what you said, actually. I actually appreciate these people in ways that they can't even begin to comprehend. But because we're only trying to apply care to what's consistent, what's modern, we're not actually understanding the deeper levels of love. Here's a research assignment for you people. Go look up how many different ways you can say love. Agape love is one. It's the Greek love. Self-sacrificing love. That's what I have for you good folks. You see, the Australians, the Australian Aboriginals have a word, in Lakesh. I am another you. I see myself going through the same things you guys are going through, and I try to put myself in that shoes to operate from a state of compassion and understanding. We have people now who are weaponizing spiritual practices for political gain, for social gain. When you're not practicing these things to refine your life, when you become offensive in your beliefs, that's whenever we have a problem. And that's what I mean by awakening the occult. It's not just Beyonce, it's not just Kanye, it's not just Angelina Jolie, it's not just ASAP Rocky, it ain't just Gucci Mane, it's not all these other people. It's who they work for. That's what we always get. That's what we always seem to want to gloss over. These people work for the devil. They work for the adversary. They've been lured in with false knowledge, only for it to be tricked onto them and for them to realize that they are the slaves. That they are bound by blood to whatever they have signed their will to. However, that's all I really have for you guys and gals. This is Awakening the Occult. All right, that's right. Bring it back. Okay, and I don't say all this stuff to frighten you guys, but if you're worried about Antifa, you have a very real threat. If you're worried about the occultists, you have a very real threat. If you're worried about the Chinese, you have a very real threat. If you're worried about the Russians, you need to stop. Go look for Bigfoot. Okay, there are real issues going on here, and while a lot of people may not see it, these people are communicating. I'm only lucky enough to be able to translate this type of stuff. To be able to catch it, to say, oh, you know, here, I see them. They're working over here. I didn't even play for you guys that second clip of the Chilling Adventures of Sabrina. You know, go look at it. These are the times that we are in. Go look up our hashtag occult world, our hashtag magic resistance. Go look up all the stuff that we put out there for you guys so you can understand that this isn't a joke. We follow this stuff. And this is very important. Them erecting that statue, there's numerological significance, spiritual significance, political significance. There's all kinds of different ways to look at it, but people need to stop acting as if they don't see what's happening, see what's happening taking place, and they need to become more aware. However, that's all I really have for you guys and gals. If you have any questions for me, feel free to email me. I'll have it in the description bar below. And as always, guys and gals, stay vigilant, expose lies, and share truth. This is Noise Era, Freedom Faction, out.